G'day everyone and welcome back to the shed. This week I've actually had a really good time playing on Boss Goss, and although it's one of these little background projects and it does take a while to sort of get time organised to get onto it, when I work on it I really enjoy doing it because it is very challenging. And I'm continuing on with the process of fitting Mustang power window regulators into our XB Falcon doors. It's gone quite well. I've had to modify the regulator a bit, but I'll talk about what I've done to the door to start with. So the first job I needed to do was make these mounting points for the top of the regulator post to fit into, and I've also made some pieces that bolt into the bottom of the door to hold the bottom of the regulator. And I have just modified the original Mustang parts. So all I did was cut their unique bracket off and made one of my own and fitted to it. So we've got these pieces now, and we'll wind up getting them replated before we put them in the car for good. We'll just bolt flat into the bottom of the door. We can put a little bit of sealant around them to stop any moisture sitting underneath them and rusting them, and it gives us the in and out adjustment for the bottom of the regulator, and I'll show you that in a minute. The other thing I wanted to do was use the plastic inserts that came out of the Mustang doors to cover up their factory holes. And the factory openings in the door were designed to take the window regulator in and out. So I've duplicated those in the same spot. We're keeping our original Falcon door handle up here, and that's going to work. And I'll just grab one of the plastic sheets to show you. These are the plastic covers that came out of the Mustang door. So that one there, we'll just glue on there with a bit of sealant, the same as what they did in the Mustang. And this big one here will go in this opening here. But I will be removing all of this material here and making a new panel to go in there with a new opening made in that. So don't worry about any of this stuff here because it's all going to get chopped off. With making this little piece in here, it's got a little lip folded on it most of the way around, and when you put the regulator up underneath it you can see why it's got a piece relieved in this area. It's where the cables sort of spread out and go through there. But to get this reinforcing lip, it's only bent over about 1/8 of an inch or 3mm, so it's quite difficult to just roll that much around and get it consistent all the way around. So what I did was I cheated. I made a 6mm 1/4 of an inch lip all the way around, and then used a bit of 1/8 plate behind it, sat it on there, and then just ground the remaining 3mm off, and we've got our little 1/8 of an inch lip all the way around the edge, and it's consistent all the way around. And there's a little piece in here where there's part of the original door material in it. So this replacement panel sort of ended here and ended there, and then this little last piece was formed by hand and then ground off the same way. So that all looks like a factory piece. Our replacement panel will have this little fold in and roll down to there and a weld around there to fit it in place. And the window regulator motor bolts on these 2 points, and another one that's not with us yet, which will just go in here, and that will be at the plane of this one here. Interestingly enough, the 3 little legs that hold the motor in place are all at different heights, so I had to get measurements off the face of the door panel from the Mustang door to recess our ones into the appropriate height so the motor would actually sit in place nicely before it. This interesting shape hole here is where the bolt goes through to hold the glass onto the mechanism, and there'll be another one at the back. So that's got that covered. Apart from, Mustang's got a speaker down there and a speaker up here. We're going to do the same thing. So I've made this little opening here and welded it in, and that was made by cutting a strip of metal, folding it to right angles, and then just running around with the stretcher to make a circle, and then I fitted it into the door and welded it in. So here's the one for the other side door. I figured I might as well make 2 at the same time, simplify the process. So that'll take an off-the-shelf speaker. Now before I make my new panel to go in here and fill all this area in, I want to get this new back section fitted into the door here. So this is going to be trimmed down and fitted into here, and the Mustang door latch will go up from inside, and it'll have this area cut out here for the striker to actually fit through when the door passes past it to close the door. And then the beauty of the Mustang latch is there's just 2 cables, one for the inside handle, one for the outside handle, so it's going to simplify connecting our 2 handles up to that latch compared to what it would be for the XB one. And the other thing is it's a technology leap. All modern cars, the doors will just close nicely and click shut, whereas these old Falcons you had to bang the door shut. The door handles were hard to lift at the end of it, so we're hoping to fix all of that in one go. with our technology upgrade. Here's the start of our new inner panel, and I've marked out the opening for the plastic insert to fit into, and I got an accurate shape by making a cardboard template inside the Mustang door and then laying that on there and marking my way around it. And then I've come in 16 millimetres or 5/8 of an inch to make the lip that's going to go all the way around the edge, which will actually stiffen the door. Now the door armrest goes through here and the handle section runs uphill here. So we need this part of the door to be pretty solid, so when the door's being pulled shut all the time, we're not going to be getting fatigue cracks and things like that in it. So this folded edge will help with that a lot. And I'm also going to put in a stiffening recess through here. So what I'll do is I'll press this area down lower than the surface of the door panel, and then we'll have a couple of raised up sections in here where the little plastic inserts go into it for the armrest to bolt onto. So that'll be interesting. I'll have to make some unique tooling to make that work, but it'll all be good. On top I've got a standard regulator for the left-hand door that I haven't modified, and the bottoms of them I have cut off and turned around. So that's been turned around there. There's still a little bit of finish grinding to do, and we're naturally going to have to prepare it and paint it to seal it all up before it can go together. And that was the only modification to these two rails at the bottom. And here is the piece that fits inside the bottom of the door, and once that's in there we've got this adjustment slot down here which will tip the top of the glass to line it up with the top of the roof of the car when the window's wound up. And that's how we make that adjustment there, because it pivots on this point here. Back to our standard regulator. In the Mustang, that's the angle, so that's the flat of the door there, and it runs across, and the glass actually travels forward in the door as it goes down. On our XB it doesn't do it to the same extent, so hence I've had to turn these around and I've had to stand these posts up in the door to make it all work. What that did was put a lot of tension on this cable where it came out of here, and it was actually kinking it like that in the corner, which would just lead to failure of the regulator. So if we look at the two together, I have cut up the one for our door and I have twisted that around and brought that down lower. Now because we've got the same length of cable, as it's come down it's had to get closer into the little pulley wheel here so that it didn't muck up any of the rest of the ratio on the window regulator. So a little bit of experimenting, but it's all in and working. But when you look at this side, it's all tucked in really close there. I don't have a lot of room left anywhere. And between this little piece of steel and the bottom edge of that little plastic pulley, there's about a cigarette paper, the difference. So a miss is as good as a mile. It's all going to work, and there's going to be no problem with that. So when we come back to this project, I'll be working on getting the end of the door working, the latch working, and then I'll be into this inner panel and getting that finished off. I'm Rob Teal, guys. Thanks very much for watching. We'll catch you next time.